Hello and welcome to the quick take here on the Fulhamish YouTube channel with me, Dan Cook. After the game has just ended, Manchester City 3, Fulham 2. And pick the bones out of that one. Where do you start? A bonkers game of football, really. I don't think anyone was expecting it to play out the way it did. I don't know if anyone was expecting that scoreline. I certainly wasn't expecting the patterns of play that we saw, and the overall story through the game probably isn't told by a 3-2 scoreline and a 3 points for Manchester City, because there was a lot of things going on in that game. And I think ultimately the fact that we've come away with no points is unfortunate, undeserved, our own fault. It's so hard to know how to feel after a performance and a result like that. For me, the way I'm looking at it, and I've seen it already, just 20 minutes after the game's ended, I've seen discourse that goes the other way. But my overriding emotion is sort of pride and happiness with how Fulham went to the Etihad against the best team in the world, and they have been the best team in the world for several years now. And we played the game on our own terms. We created an abundance of chances. We rattled them. We got stuck in. We were resilient defensively, and going forward, we were electric. And all of those things, when you add all of those things up, if you were telling me, what do you want to see Fulham do today? It would be those things. It would be to just give a good account of ourselves. I never expected us to get anything. But, and I completely understand why there are people who, instead of pride, are frustrated or disappointed. We should be coming away with something. There's no two ways about it. I mean, Fulham created, and this is bonkers, a higher XG than Manchester City did at the Etihad. It created an XG of over 2, which is bonkers. And I know I keep using that word, but it's all that's in my mind after that game of football. I was having a little look back at when the last time City conceded an XG of over 2. And you've got to go back to March of this year in the league. And that was against Liverpool. And the only 2 times it happened in the league prior to that were that ridiculous game at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, which was 4-4, and I think there were 2 penalties in there. And the other team was Aston Villa. Teams don't do this against Manchester City. Teams don't create that many chances, and somehow we've gone there, done that, and come away with nothing. Which is it's a really hard one to sum up. I guess where to start? We go back to the starting 11, probably right to before kickoff. One change from last week. Perhaps unsurprising, seeing Sander Berge come in. I think some people were surprised to see that it was Smith Rowe that shifted out and not Andreas. But on the balance of the thing, I think it made sense. You've got the running and the energy and the grit and the application that Andreas gives you. It makes sense to have him in for a game like this, where you're not going to have the ball that often. You're going to have to chase it constantly. And so I thought that made sense. And it saw Fulham really play a flat 3 in midfield. Less so than, what we're used to seeing with that 2 and maybe a number 10. It very much looked to me that Sander Berge was the middle pivot in that. But either side of him, he had Lukic and Pereira just working tirelessly, chasing after everything. And I'll be honest, in the first 5 minutes, I thought I could see exactly where this game was going. We didn't really get going, and City came out so quickly. And I'm sure Pep will have said to them, go out, kill this game in the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then let's just take our foot off and cruise to victory. And it certainly felt like that was the way it was going. There was a couple of early chances for City, and I was getting concerned. And then suddenly the game just started to shift, and after 20 or so minutes, it was way more even, way more balanced, and we had a threat. We had a real threat. We were pretty sturdy at the back. I mean, you've got Joachim Andersen in there now, just orchestrating things. I thought that back 4 plus Alex Iwobi, which I think we'll get onto, were really good and really limited City's chances in front of goal. And then we were really, really good at just flicking that switch when we won the ball back and going in the opposite direction and getting City running back towards their goal. And we get the first, probably the best chance of the game in the first 20 minutes fell to Adama Traore, and I think he is potentially the main story coming out of today, because 99% of his game today was superb. He was the most threatening player on the pitch. The first opportunity he gets comes from a quick counter, couple of passes. Raul, who I thought was pretty superb throughout. This was, for me, one of the best games I've seen Jimenez have. And that sort of, that link up that those two have, the Traore and Jimenez, it seems like they've almost, like it's finally just clicked again, and they're back into those sort of Wolves days. The way they linked up today was superb. He plays a gorgeous outside of the foot sort of through ball in behind, and Traore managed to get the right side of Rico Lewis, and he's one-on-one with Ederson, and slightly unlucky, I think. You know, Ederson does well to save with his legs, but you've got to say from that position, Traore's got to do better, and he probably should score. And then not that long after, we do score, and it is an exceptional all-round goal. I think you see teams come to the Etihad, and the goals they get are 2 or 3 passes, and you just manage to get in behind, you catch them high, you get in behind, and you score. This was a team goal. This was a full, lovely, flowing move. We shifted it right, we shifted it left, we finally got it out to Anthony Robinson, who puts in a great ball, and from then it gets a little bit scrappy. Iwobi plays it into Jimenez. What can you say about the assist from Raul? I mean, a half-volleyed back heel that drifts over the head of Akanji, and Andreas Pereira taps home from sort of point-blank range. It's a fantastic goal. It's a ludicrous assist. You'll do well to find a better assist than that this season, especially because I've watched the replay a few times. He means it. That is exactly where Raul is trying to put that back heel. Stunning, and we're 1-0 up at the Etihad. It was a bit of a shock. I don't think anyone was expecting it. And you know, the patterns of play continued through the whole game. This was the sort of the story. We kept on creating chances, and it's an unlucky way to concede the equaliser, you know, a deflected goal. And these are the moments, I think. This is where this game was won and lost, wasn't it? I think we all know it. We created enough chances to get something from today. And you look at City, and, you know, they're a bit of the rub of the green with that first goal, a deflection after the ball drops them from a corner. It's a horribly scrappy way to concede, and then a much better goal after half-time. Yeah, and it's a horror, again, just not when you want to concede a goal. We've gone in at half-time, 1-1, playing really well. There's so many positives coming out of it, and then 3 minutes after the restart, you're 2-1 down, and I'm sure Marco would have been really disappointed with that. A Kovacic double, which I don't know if many people had it on their list, but he stepped into Rodri's shoes, and I mean, you could argue that he probably didn't play particularly well, because he's not shielded that back line at all, and we had a 3-on-2, a 4-on-3, a 4-on-2 several times in both halves. But ultimately, Kovacic comes away with 2 goals, and he'll probably be classed as their match winner, and probably someone at the Premier League will give him man of the match, but I don't think he necessarily deserved it. Just a story of missed chances, and it's such an interesting debate, I think, this Adama Traore enigma, because, yeah, for me, was he the best player on the pitch? He was the most impactful player on the pitch. He made so many things happen, and he terrorised that City backline. But ultimately, he should have scored 3 goals. Or more so, he had 3 chances of each one of them he should be scoring. And to not put any of them away is ultimately what costs us. But I'm so reticent to put too much criticism on him, because no one else makes that happen. there's no one else, I don't think, in the Premier League, but there's certainly no one else in the Fulham team who is able to do what he did today in terms of creating those chances. The problem is, it can't put him away on a frequent enough basis, and I think it's a really difficult debate to have. But for me, I think he's been such a valuable player so far this season that I think the positives outweigh the negatives, and I know people agree, and I think there are people who disagree. I think that's fair enough. It's not a black or white argument, this one, and so yeah, it's a really tricky one with Adama, but he's exciting to watch. You know, there's something so thrilling about seeing him charging behind defences. But if he could finish, he'd probably be the best player in the world, and he wouldn't be at Fulham. So I think that's probably ultimately where the debate lies. Other stories around the game. I mean, it's a pretty good hit from Doku to make it 3-1, and at that point you're thinking City don't deserve 3-1, and I wonder if, I've watched it a couple of times, is there some blame to be laid at Leno's door? Maybe. He seems to just shift the wrong way slightly, and he can't get back in time. I think Burnt will probably be disappointed with that one. He probably should have saved it. And when you think the game's done, we piece together another lovely move, and Reece Nelson, again impressing off the bench, picks out a lovely ball into the area, and Rodrigo Muniz gets his first goal of the season. And I think that's a really important thing as well. And these are the positives to take away from this game. Rodri getting on the score sheet, confidence it's a great confidence boost, and we've got to focus on these things coming out in, and hopefully that ignites something in Muniz as well, because at the moment, if Muniz can build on that, we all have two firing strikers in Raul and Rodrigo, and that's really essential for us this season to get both of those two in the goals, and so that's exciting to see. I think the last area that I think want to give a shout out to is actually Alex Iwobi, and it might have gone a little bit unsung in this game, but I thought the dedication and the application we saw from Al out on, he was playing as a right wing back. It was he got Bobby Decordova-Reeded, and Marco's asked him to play at times as a genuine right back, and Kenny Tete just sat a little bit further inside, almost as a third centre back. I thought Iwobi put in a magnificent shift for someone who doesn't play that position, and a big shout out to him, because for me that I've never seen him play that role before, and to execute it as well as he did is admirable. And yeah, ultimately I think we just ran out of steam at the end, and we come away 3-2. It could have been different. It could have been oh so different. We could be here sat now talking about a famous Fulham win, our first win against Manchester City in what would have been, I think 20. It would have been one win in 20 if we'd have managed to get over the line today. Instead, it's a 17th defeat in a row, and it doesn't feel fair, but such is football. We remain 6th in the league for the time being, and you know what, I implore you, I know it's frustrating, but got to take as many positives from this as possible, because what we've seen out there today should make us optimistic for what's to come for the rest of the season, because not many teams can do what we did to City today, and proud of how far we've come. You know, last year we got zipped 5-1 there, and we barely laid a glove on them. So big shout out to the team. Big shout out to Marco Silva, who I think masterminded what should have been 3 points at the Etihad. Who does that? Massive credit to Marco and the coaching staff for producing a game plan that was nearly perfect, and if it wasn't for some poor finishing, probably would have been perfect. And let's go into the international break with our heads held high, a really good first stab at this season, and I think this team's going in a really promising and exciting direction. So there's plenty to look forward to as we come back from the international break with Aston Villa at home, which I think is going to be a stonking game. So let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to see which side you fall on. Is it pride, or is it disappointment, frustration, anger. I'm on the pride side of things here, and hopefully you are too, because what we've seen today was impressive from Fulham, and ultimately it's gutting to not win, but such is football. Such teams like Manchester City, who will put you away if you give them a chance. So lessons learned, but what a hell of a game that was to watch. And let's go into the international break and take a little rest, because it gets a bit stressful watching us play football every weekend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, enjoy your Sundays, and take some time off over the international break, and we will see you when we resume. Come on, you Whites.